Pete Buttigieg from Michigan Senate. That's right, Gary Peters is apparently retiring in 2026, so his term will end in January 2027, and Pete Buttigieg is being floated as a possible future Michigan senator. Now, the thing is, that election is 2 years before the 2028 election, and even though the Constitution does not forbid someone from running for Senate in 2026 and getting elected president 2 years later, there are people like David Axelrod, Obama's political strategist friend, who doesn't really think that it's something that you should do, like just run for Senate 2 years before running for the presidency. But I mean, J.D. Vance ran for Senate in 2022. He won the Ohio Senate race, and then he was Donald Trump's vice president. But of course, running for vice president is a shorter process than running for president, because you usually get picked around the time of the convention in the summer of the election year. So you're not going around the campaign trail all that much. You're not participating in the primary season. So would Pete Buttigieg be a good senator? It's something I could see him doing. I think that he's more progressive than Gary Peters. I think that he could win in the state of Michigan. He's a Midwest guy. He's from Indiana, the former mayor of South Bend. I actually lived in Michigan for a long time, so I like to think I know a thing or two about my former home state. But yeah, the question is okay, should he be a senator or go on to run for president in 2028? I think that of the two, he'd be better off running as a senator and being in the Senate for 6 years or so, because I just don't know that he represents the future of the Democratic Party at this moment. He's very Obama-esque, and Obama's 8 years ended up leading to Trump in 2016. And although Obama did plenty of fine things as president, it's like he could have done a little better, and then maybe Trump wouldn't have won. Maybe Hillary Clinton would have come in with a higher approval rating because she was heavily associated with the Obama administration. So Pete Buttigieg kind of does this Obama impression. It comes off a little tacky, but lately, like in 2024, around this time, he's gotten more aggressive and more pointed. He's willing to debate a lot of Fox News hosts, and a lot of liberals think that he's done pretty darn well in those debates, not buying into their premises, being unapologetic, not being quite as friendly and as conciliatory as Barack Obama, but actually going in there and not name calling or anything, not spazzing out, not using ad homs, but just being calm, level-headed, putting together articulate, powerful sentences, and making the case for democratic policies. He made the case for Kamala Harris. There was a video of him actually, I think it was on Jubilee, talking to swing voters and explaining why he thinks Kamala Harris's policies would be better than Donald Trump's before the election. And he did a pretty good job at that. I think he did a better job than Kamala Harris herself did, making the case, for the Biden administration and the case for the vice president to become the president in November, or to be elected in November. So he's good at rhetoric. He's smooth. He's kind of short. He's apparently like 5'9" or something, which is like short for a U.S. president. In fact, he would be our first short king president since Jimmy Carter. But I just don't know. I think he represents the establishment a little too much, and height isn't really that big of a deal, let's face it. He represents the establishment just a bit too much. And Kamala Harris really represented the establishment in the 2024 election. Whether you like it or not, she was the incumbent vice president. People saw her as the insider, the incumbent. She wasn't the incumbent. Joe Biden was the incumbent, but since she was his vice president, she got tarred with the problem of incumbency, and people couldn't get past that. People couldn't get past her saying, oh yeah, I wouldn't have done anything different from Joe Biden, because Joe Biden just was not that popular. Not all of it was policy related. I'm not saying he was a screw up, but he did have that age problem, which no matter your political party, you gotta admit it haunted him pretty badly in a unique way. Like, there were age concerns about Reagan, and there are age concerns about Trump, but I think Biden, during his term, he got the most heated age concerns out of any U.S. president. So we need someone who really represents kind of a break from the old Obama, Biden, Harris trilogy, I guess you could say, and then throw Hillary Clinton in there as well. And I don't think Pete Buttigieg really represents that. I think he's charismatic in the sense that he's a good speaker. I don't know how much he really resonates with people who are not super suburban neoliberal types. I think he's winning over more progressives slowly, but there was that thing back in 2020, like the wine cave scandal, where it really just made him look like he was an elitist. Elizabeth Warren was calling him out on the debate stage in February 2020 for that. He was meeting with donors in a wine cave. And he's not for Medicare for all. He's just for the public option. So not really this aggressive progressive, you could say. But he does make the case strongly against a lot of the Republican healthcare plans, which I think a lot of progressives will appreciate. Just when push comes to shove, he doesn't advocate for the option that will protect the most people, which is Medicare for all, universal health care. He's saying, well, you should be able to opt into the public system. And I know there are a lot of progressives who would be okay with that, but there are a lot who also would like to go further. So, and then also he had a little bit of a problem in the primary season attracting minority voters. He was a generic Midwest white guy. Now, Biden, of course, was a white guy from Delaware, and he did really well with black voters in South Carolina. Make of that what you will. Bernie did a little better with minorities than Buttigieg too. Buttigieg really struggled, and he was stereotyped as having just a bunch of upper middle class white supporters, like wine moms and stuff, just generic neoliberals. And also in that race, he had a problem where there were a lot of people who actually, they were establishment candidates. They were like, yeah, I support public option. They agreed with him on almost everything. They just weren't as good at doing an Obama impression, like Beto O'Rourke, and other candidates who maybe didn't do an Obama impression, but agreed with Pete Buttigieg on almost every issue. So it was like, okay, what's the difference between you and all these people? Just the fact that you can do a really good Obama impression and that you're young? Okay. So he'll be in his 40s. Well, he is in his 40s right now, but he'll still be in his 40s by 2028. I just don't, he'll be like 46. I just don't think that he's going to represent the type of change that we need. Now, the Democratic candidate will be viewed as a change candidate in 2028 because Trump will have been president for 4 years, if not Trump for some of those 4 years and Vance for some of those 4 years, depending on what happens. You never know. So being young and being an outside, or being viewed as the outsider, the change candidate, even if he's kind of an insider within Democratic politics, will be helpful, but better safe than sorry. Democrats should consider someone who is more aggressive, someone who comes off as more of an outsider, someone, who maybe isn't that much of a household name right now. Like, we're all kind of just waiting for someone to rise up. And Pete Buttigieg was sort of like that in 2020, actually. He had this air of mystery around him. People were like, oh, who is this young mayor? This young mayor who's a good talker and, he's from the Midwest. Who is this guy? He was really intriguing to a lot of people. But then as the primary season went on, I think people started to see that he wasn't that much of a policy wonk. And I distinctly remember him even saying, let's not get too concerned about the policy minutia. Which now he's actually more of a policy guy, it seems. Now, he doesn't really focus on personal attacks or vibes or anything like that. He's concerned with policy. So I commend him for that. I just don't know if he's the guy in 2028. I think he should run for the Michigan Senate in 2026. Apparently he's keeping a lower profile after leaving the Biden administration, which, it's only been literally 1 month. So we'll see how much that stays. I don't think, though, I know some right-wingers might be tempted to comment, oh, what about his time as transportation secretary? I don't think that his time as transportation secretary was disqualifying or anything. A lot of people just blamed him for stuff that went on without any evidence. They blamed the Norfolk Southern train derailment on him with no evidence. They blamed some of the plane accidents on him. But I just don't know where people are getting that. They were just saying, oh, well, he's in a position of power, so it must be his fault. And they made fun of him for liking DEI, I think. Whatever. DEI, it has its merits, it has its drawbacks, but I don't think that was really something he was super focused on anyhow. I think his main focus was just making things work, making government work. And Donald Trump is the exact opposite of that. Donald Trump doesn't believe in a functioning government, so he might seem like a good contrast to Buttigieg in 2028. But still, I think he's better suited for the Senate, and if he wants to be president, he should sit 2028 out. I don't know. It's weird. He's like in this area between being a super moderate Democrat and a progressive Democrat. There's a lot of gray area, and there could be maybe a moderate Democrat is the way to go, but a Democrat who is moderate and has more aggressive tactics and more charisma and is more plain spoken and has less of this elitist vibe. Maybe that type of Democrat would be the way to go over someone like Buttigieg, because they would kind of appeal to normies, appeal to plain talking Americans in this way that like kind of Obama did. And the Obama era is over. Pete Buttigieg acts like Obama, but he didn't quite have the same level of charisma. Someone who is plain talking, doesn't come off too intellectual or elitist, but also is aggressive, and also talks a good game on policy, even if they're not super progressive. They just are good at criticizing Republican Party policy. I don't know. So yeah, I say Buttigieg for Senate 2026 in Michigan. He should consider it, but not for president in 2028. What do you think in the comments? Do you disagree? Let me know. As always, like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Morris, the Merrier, and I look forward to speaking to you in my next video.